I don't have a chime with me today, so we're just going to ding and welcome everyone to Recovery Dharma. My name is Julia. I'm one of the facilitators in the Spokane Sangha. It is such a pleasure and a privilege to be here today. You know, today is the last day of the theme of duality, of light and dark, that we've been exploring for the entire month of December. And it has been a really informative and rich exploration. And today, what I'd like to bring forward and bring into your consciousness and awareness, a really important uh, part of my personal practice. I have shared with you practices like that's true and not the whole truth. I have shared with you just like me as a tangible practice. Today, I'd like to bring forward in that concept of dualism, the extremes of something is either this or something is that. It's either good or it's bad. It's either light or it's dark. It's either one way or the opposite way. That's the dualistic mind. The Western mind is highly, highly conditioned to it. And one of the practices, one of the motivations to practice is to unlearn some of this conditioning so that we can open up to all of the possibility that exists in between those two opposites. This practice is not to suggest those two opposites don't exist. They do. They're just not the whole shebang. There's this, there's that, and there's everything in between. And this is what Eastern practices, Buddhism especially, enlightens us to and encourages our curiosity to explore. So today I'd like to show you one of the things I have in my tool belt. And I want everyone to go out and get one. You don't have to have one as big as the one that I have, but I want you to have one. And the computer doesn't count. You actually have to get this physical thing. A Roget's thesaurus. Because for every word, for every concept, there's its opposite. And then there are lots and lots of synonyms and antonyms that go with it. And this is not only a way of broadening and expanding our language, which will enhance our practice and cultivation of wise speech. It is a way of really looking into and broadening our understanding of various qualities, various experiences. So, first up, get a thesaurus and play with it. Second up of this practice is something in Buddhism called the Four Limitless Qualities. The Four Limitless Qualities are the bedrock of my personal practice. They are loving kindness, compassion, joy, equanimity. Easier said than done. So, to bring this into the practice of light and dark, to bring this into the practice of dualism, let's take a moment and explore together the opposites of these qualities as they arise in the human experience. And we'll begin with loving kindness. Some of the things that you may experience, I certainly experience in opposition to the quality of loving kindness that lives within me, are the qualities that also live in me, defined as unfriendliness, nastiness, coldness, hate, egoism. These are the inhibitors, these are the limits, and there's just a handful of them, and there are many more. The invitation is for you to take a moment and maybe close your eyes now with me and think about, get curious about, what do I experience? What do I engage as a quality in opposition to loving kindness? What is my capacity to be unfriendly? What is my capacity to be immature in my ego and self-protecting and defensive? What is my capacity to be cold and tight? To be a whole human being, to be at peace, to recover your true self, your Buddha nature, is to uncover these qualities, to hold them, to acknowledge them, to allow them to be a presence, and to infuse you with wisdom, their wisdom. It's not about getting rid of your capacity to be unfriendly. It's about understanding first, I have the capacity to be unfriendly, unkind. What are the conditions that evoke that? When I encounter those conditions, how can I engage differently? How can I ignite my capacity for Maitri, loving kindness? Take a moment and consider your loving kindness and consider its opposites. Part of this practice, friends, is to make sure we're not getting too wrapped up in story. This is simply a touchstone. Ooh, that was a situation where I was kind of cold in my expression. I had kind of a resting dishwater face. Not friendly, not warm. Huh, would you look at that? I wonder what that's all about. What are the conditions there? Identify, notice, move on. You don't have to linger too long. And this is, the reason for this is we're simply trying to create space in the mind and heart to recognize that we all have the capacity for both noble and unnoble qualities, skillful and unskillful quality, and each have conditions defining them. To awaken, to really bring forward and recover our true nature, our Buddha nature, is to understand all of these conditions. The second limitless quality is karuna, compassion. Its opposites include harshness, indifference, hatred, coldness again, detachment. One of the things I encounter a lot in support groups of people who have loved ones with substance use disorders and they're trying to find ways to support them is this incessant narrative about detachment. And what I hear so often in the expression of misery and trying to detach is, I don't care. And the reality is that these are people who care very deeply. They're just at a loss for how to express compassion and presence. They're frustrated, they're scared, they're worried. They don't know what to do for their loved one. And they have a social narrative that is constantly banging on their door that says, detach. Let them hit their rock bottom. You can't control them. And the end result is people live counter to their own integrity and they stop caring because they don't know what else to do. Compassion is a limitless quality because it is fearless in its presence. It is tenacious. It is unstoppable. Compassion will never give up. Compassion is also extraordinarily tender and soft. It is exquisitely vulnerable. Patient. Quiet. How does compassion come alive in you? And how does its opposite make itself known? The third limitless quality is joy, mudita. And we explore these opposites, friends, because when we are in the midst of the opposite of joy, we begin to understand the conditions that inhibit our joy. One of the opposites of joy is regret. And again, this is not to say, oh, you better live without regrets, no regrets. Good luck with that. This is about understanding the conditions of our regret so we are less governed by it, by the memory, by the feeling tone of it. And we can simply hold our regret and allow it to be a teacher, allow our regret to inform us, inform our future actions so that we can go into the world and be more joyful. The opposite of joy is misery, affliction, grief, and distress. Anytime you are experiencing distress, your joy will be inhibited. And that's okay. That's real. That's what it means to be human. But sometimes in our states of distress, we almost feel married to it. And to engage joy feels like a betrayal, like somehow we're cheating on our distress. We don't deserve to be joyful. We're not worthy of happiness, are the stories we tell ourselves, and the stories society tells us too. You're such a terrible person. You did so many terrible things. You don't deserve to be happy. Where is that written? Joy is a limitless quality, and it is part of our true nature of being human, as are all these other qualities. The world is a miserable place, so much suffering. The Buddha knew this 2,600 years ago. It's the first noble truth. We were created to understand this, and we were created to infuse the misery of the world with joy, precisely how it is alive in you. And then finally we come to the fourth limitless quality of equanimity. Thich Nhat Hanh refers to equanimity as space and freedom. I really like that. I've also heard equanimity as another synonym for that word as inclusivity. It is one's capacity to hold both the light and the dark, the good and the bad, the pairs of opposites, hold them together like identical twins. Mirrors of one another. Some antonyms, opposites of equanimity include agitation, anxiety, greed, disquiet, impatience. When I think of the word space as an equanimous quality, some of the antonyms that quickly arise in my mind are words like and experiences like tightness, collapse. When I think of the word freedom, its opposite is trap, prison, stuck. The word limitless, friends. That word, infinite, it means and it implies that there is space for everything. To cultivate joy boundlessly, immeasurably, is to also cultivate in understanding one's regrets, the conditions of one's misery, and so on. We are here to recover our true self. We are here to put down the violence and the aggression we have enacted toward ourselves. We are here aspiring for sustained sobriety, freedom from delusion and negative habit energy. to recover our truest aspirations and to understand the conditions of our negative habit energy is to recover, to heal. This, my friends, is a practice. And not only that, it is an invitation to live in a whole new way. May you find comfort in this new way of being, this new way of living, in the three jewels of Buddhism. The Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, who simply and profoundly spent time understanding the conditions of his own misery and understanding the condition of what brought him freedom. He put all of that understanding in an oral tradition, and thanks to many, many others, in a written form called the Dharma, his teachings and their interpretations over thousands of years, alive today, here in this moment, in me and now in each of you. And then the third jewel is all of us, the Sangha, the beautiful community that is taking in the Dharma and making it come alive as each of us, putting it back into the world, rippling it out there for our own personal healing and transformation, and by extension, the whole wide world that includes the cosmos. The power of this practice is infinite. And that infinite nature, friends, is each of us. Let's take a deep breath on that. Allow it to warm your mind and heart and bring a smile to your face. And when you're ready, come on back. Okay, friends, let's go ahead and say so long, and hopefully we'll see you on Sunday, and we'll have a beautiful dedication of merit. So I invite you to come into a noble posture. And a noble posture is very, very simple. And in fact, let's do a beautiful hand mudra that I practiced last night. Middle fingers and ring fingers touching the thumbs, okay, just like this. A little bit like Quiet Coyote, only curl your fingers in a little bit, okay? And then turn your hands so that your pinky and your pointer fingers are touching like this, okay? So you can see that. And then rest this down on your lap. And just take a moment to sense how that feels. Notice the contact of your thumb and the two fingers. Notice the contact of your pointer fingers and pinkies. Notice that empty space. This mudra is highly balanced. There is connection and openness, contact and space. Make sure you're sitting nice and tall. Shoulders are rolled back so that the heart space is open. This is a noble posture. This is putting your body in a version of yourself that expresses your karmic dharma nobility. May you carry this posture into your day. May it strengthen your presence with loving kindness and compassion and joy. May you have a sense of freedom from the courage of this posture and the courage of this practice. May you recognize that any time you show up to yourself, you are inviting a degree of healing and transformation. May you dare to not keep it to yourself, and instead share it. Share it out in the world in whatever way you can. A world so desperate to have it. Friends, for as long as misery is in the world, and for as long as sentient beings are in the world, may we too remain to help dispel the misery around us.